Welcome to Forest Proud, where we speak forest. I'm here today with Katharine and Oliver from Vermont Department of Forests, Parks, and Recreation. We teamed up with their department on our most recent Wood Innovation Program film, Fueling the Future, and we are excited to talk more about their department, bioenergy, and Vermont's forests. Katharine and Oliver, can you introduce yourselves, your roles at Vermont, and your responsibility with your local forests?
I'm Katharine, and I'm the Forest Economy Program Manager here at Vermont Department of Forest, Parks, and Recreation. Forest Economy Program really just works on the business side of forestry. So everything from the foresters and loggers working in the woods all the way through the supply chain to the consumer products at retail.
Awesome.
Yeah, and again, I'm Oliver Pearson. I'm the director of the Division of Forests within the Vermont Department of Forest, Parks, and Recreation. So I have the privilege of leading this team of about 63 employees that are really responsible for many different aspects of managing Vermont's forests. Vermont's about 78% forested, and we do anything from managing forests and recreation on state land to supporting private landowners with forest stewardship to helping urban stakeholders, towns, and residents get more trees planted and steward urban forests to supporting the forest economy, as Katharine said, and then really monitoring the health of our forests and tracking the spread of invasives, pests, pathogens, and doing what we can to stop the spread where applicable. So that's in a nutshell the overall responsibilities of the division that again I get to lead. And I also play the role. Every state has a state forester for interacting with the federal government on the state and private forest management roles that exists, and so I get to wear that hat as well.
That's great. I really appreciate your time and you guys taking the chance to speak with everyone today so we can learn more about your department. So the first question I have for you guys is, can you talk about what kind of forest management supports Vermont's communities and what are your forest resilience strategies in Vermont?
Yeah, I think I'll start on that one. We support many different aspects of active, sustainable forest management, and we hope that Vermont's communities are benefiting from those and feel supported by that in lots of different ways. So, starting with forests on state lands, which is about 10% of Vermont's forests. Those we manage with a real multiple use approach, trying to balance habitat and species conservation, conservation and protection of sensitive ecosystems, with allowing access to forests for different types of uses. Under statute in Vermont, we are, required to manage those forests to support the forest economy, to manage these forests in a sustainable manner, so that the forests are able to produce durable wood products for current and future generations, and support the actors in our forest economy. So when we get into developing a long range management plan for our state forests, that's one of the goals that we try to achieve through those plans. More recently, recreation and access to public lands has been a really important part of how we manage these forests. Vermonters and visitors to our state really value those uses, and so we're looking more and more on how we can support forest-based recreation, both traditional uses like hunting and fishing, with now sort of people who want to get into the forest for hiking, mountain biking, taking pictures, or just kind of seeking solace to get away from it all. So recreation becomes a big part of our forest management planning goals. And then so after active forest management, both for commercial and non-commercial purposes, in the non-commercial side is often thinning and other ways to promote forest health and or fighting the spread of invasive species. So after that and after recreation, we look at how can our forests support wildlife, as I mentioned, how can our forests protect water quality, and then achieve sort of a host of other objectives that the public is interested in.
What I'll add is that, Oliver spoke a lot about kind of how the state manages its forest land, which he mentioned is about 10% of our forest land. And, 78, 76-ish% of Vermont's forests are actually, they're owned privately by private landowners, families. And so we really rely on those private landowners to be engaged with the forest economy and to practice forest management and be willing to do that for us, and for themselves, for for the next generation, and to help us have all of these resources that we rely on. Vermont's forest economy contributes $2.1 billion annually to the state's economy, and it supports about 14,000 jobs. And so it's something that it's quiet. You don't necessarily think about it directly when you think about Vermont, where our food and ag has really taken a huge piece, and they're very well known for great reason. We love our maple syrup, but our forest economy is a big part of Vermont as well. And as far as like the direct economic benefits, particularly with wood heat, we've found that 80 cents of every dollar spent on wood fuels is likely retained in the local economy, compared to about 22 cents of every dollar spent on fossil heating fuels.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys' responses because it's very refreshing to hear, with the film that we did with you all, it was kind of the theme is, we take care of our forests and our forests take care of us. So I appreciate you guys expanding on that idea. And it's wonderful to hear all of the forest management tools that you're using to take care of your forests, but then also how your forests are taking care of your communities as well. So kind of switching gears, I wanted to talk about, with bioenergy that provides an outlet for low grade wood. So that's, a big theme of the last film as well was this low value wood. What do we do with it? So I wanted to ask you guys, how do you see using low grade wood for fuel to help improve your forest health?
We have a range, a number of different forest types in Vermont. We have a forest economy that is able to, hopefully continue to, sustainably harvest trees of different age and different species and different quality, and get those products out to market regionally, nationally, internationally, and different types of wood, high grade, low grade, and everything in between is all play a role in how we, think about managing the forests, getting products out of the forest to meet the needs of society, of our residents, of other markets, and keep the forests actively and sustainably managed and healthy. So, sort of specifically to your question, I think there's a very important role that low grade wood products play in supporting forest management, but it's part of an overall ensemble of when a landowner, a forester, and a logger kind of make a plan and implement that plan to how that forest is going to be managed. We want it to be based on principles of sustainability, but also provide an economic benefit for the landowner and the sort of contractors and professionals that are involved in managing it. And so the having markets for both, high value, high grade, higher grade wood products and low grade wood products is important so that we can ensure that, the as much of the wood that needs to get out to meet our forest management health goals can get out, and that there's an economic benefit to the actors involved in doing so. So traditionally, the lower grade wood products have been used for, wood heat, and in the state of Vermont, where we still have two, biomass electricity plants, wood fueled electricity, and those are important markets to keep the demand for low grade wood products alive and well. And so, a forester, logger, landowner may decide, I want to do a whole tree harvest. I want to take everything out, and those crowns, those branches, we're going to chip those up, and convert them to different types of wood chips, convert them to pellets. Or sell them to mills and other actors that can, make those types of conversions. And often those lower grade wood products are used for different wood energy applications, as I said. And so, I think I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but and Katharine knows a bit more about this, but we're lucky to have an active thermal energy from wood, from biomass sector in Vermont. And so the lower grade products are frequently used in that space. And as I said, as pellets and chips, and we have some markets in the region where these lower grade wood products are still trucked to, that provides that opportunity to get those products out and get some benefit from them, along with the main stems, which might be used for veneer or for furniture making. So those sort of higher value products, the low grade plays a really important complementary role in markets and keeping our forests actively managed. So that's the general introduction. I'll see if Katharine wants to get into any more specifics, as she knows this area a bit better than I do.
Yeah, I guess some specifics, but also some kind of like just big picture. So the foresters and the landowners and everyone involved really relies on these local and regional markets to just make it just economically viable or feasible to do forest management. So sometimes there may not necessarily be like a direct economic benefit. It's really just makes it possible for people to manage their forest land and to maintain it as forest land. And what we've seen in the region, and especially in Vermont, is that those markets have just become a little bit less reliable in some cases, or they've just been changing over time, particularly those low grade markets. So non-saw timber, non-veneer logs. And a lot of times in most parts of the country, you might see that stuff going towards pulp and paper products as well as for wood heat. We have very little of those types of markets here in Vermont. They're all out of state. And then costs of transportation make that just a little bit more challenging for our landowners to be able to use as a market. And that's why, wood heat, wood energy has become really quite important for Vermont, for us to be able to manage our forests.
Yeah. I really appreciate your guys' insights on that because I think it's refreshing to see, and it's not something you see, widespread across America with the use of low value wood as a heating source. And I know a lot of people learned in our film that was released. We got a lot of comments and messages that I had no idea, like they had never thought about where low value wood, like branches went. Everybody just thinks about the main tree, but not so much the aftermath and the little pieces. So I appreciate your guys' insights on that.
In Vermont, we've got, 1 in 5 public school students attends a school that's heated with wood.
Oh, wow.
And we're really proud of that and what those students are able to like learn and talk about. And always amazed when I read it again. So we do provide a lot of support to schools with wood heat systems. And what we found is that schools that use wood pellet or wood chip heating systems are saving an average of 18% on their annual heating costs compared to those that are using propane and fuel oil. So it can be a tremendous savings for these school districts, particularly in rural areas. Finances for rural school districts are always very challenging. And wood fuel is a pretty steady price market, and it's something that can make a big difference for small schools.
Yeah. Well, that's really, really cool to hear how the forests are supporting students and schools and helping, like you said, especially in Vermont when the when the winters get cold, they're really sustaining your communities. Yeah.
And our office building uses wood heat as well.
I love that. Yeah. That's great. I was gonna ask that, but I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I thought about
It is
asking that.
Yeah.
every time we've had Maryland come to visit, I believe that's our first stop is our office building, and they get to see our wood heat system there.
That's fantastic. So you don't just talk the talk. You walk the walk too.
And I think maybe I'll just add, we've over the years we've gotten into these campaigns like Feel Good Heat, which is an effort to talk about the benefits of using wood to meet your home heating needs. And I think we recognize that we want Vermonters of every walk of life to be able to use wood heat should they choose to in their homes. And we don't want cost to be a barrier, and we want to also be able to help low-income Vermonters meet their home heating needs during the colder winter months. And I think we're seeing that as perhaps some of the federal support for similar programs begins to decrease, the importance of helping Vermonters meet their winter heat needs. So we have a wood warms program that one aspect of the program is when we do timber sales on state lands, we put into the contract that we eventually signed with a logger who's submitted the most competitive bid to do that harvesting work on our lands. a requirement to make a certain number of cords of wood available to one or more, wood banks around the state. And then that wood is then, split and transported to homes that wood bank supports and provided free of charge to low-income families in Vermont that have asked for that support to the wood bank. And so that's a great important program that I'm really proud that we're able to support. I think that's one aspect of managing a public land or a public asset that I think almost every Vermonter, would support. And it's just a way to make that connection, between forests, wood energy, and meeting the needs of all the residents of our state.
Yeah, and we found, especially here, as costs increased, for energy, for fuel oil, and when, money gets tight, a lot of homes turn increasingly to wood as a heat source here. And it's really important that we are able to make sure that those homes have access to quality firewood that's been dried and it's safe for them to be able to burn in their stoves or in their homes to be able to heat their space. So wood warms is something that we've been doing for more than 50 years now. And it is a bright spot, very proud of it.
Yeah, I can see why. What a wonderful program and way to give back to the community. That's amazing work that you guys are doing and supporting. So, diving more into our Wood Innovations program grant film, Fueling the Future, all about bioenergy in Maryland and Vermont, what made this collaboration between public agencies and private partners successful?
We have a lot of common goals. We've shared goals. So my counterpart in Maryland, we speak quite a bit. And so we're able to talk about the success we're having with wood energy and wood heat here. And it sparks that idea of we could have that too. And then what can we do? What can we learn together? What can we share of lessons learned and how we've been able to advance wood heat in Vermont? Can it be brought to Maryland? And so that type of collaboration is really what made it possible. And that, sharing of knowledge and experience and identifying opportunities together is what made it possible. Maryland and Vermont may seem really different, but we both have rural communities and we both have demands on our electrical grid, and we have forests that we want to keep as forests and a forest economy that relies on multifaceted markets. So the scale may be a little bit different and the landscape is slightly different, but we have the same challenges and opportunities.
Yeah, I just add, I think it's exciting for entities, individuals, businesses, municipal organizations that use wood heat effectively in Vermont to have folks come from out of state to take a look at it and learn. So when folks from Maryland expressed an interest in coming up here to see what we were doing, there was a lot of interest. It wasn't hard to find businesses or organizations to go visit. Fortunately, we work closely with these folks, so we know them. We know them already, but it wasn't hard to get people to agree to host the folks from Maryland. And there's a lot of enthusiasm to share what practices and systems have been put in place, that sort of qualify as advanced wood heating systems. So great back and forth, great sharing of information, and I think we appreciate that folks from as far away as Maryland would take the time to come up here and learn from us. And I think the folks from Maryland got some good ideas about how these systems are used in Vermont that they were able to take back home and try to put into practice there. So it's been a win-win, And if they want to invite us down to the beach in Maryland, and in the summer, maybe we'd say yes to that too. But we're happy to host them up here and in the colder months of the year and show them what we're up to in Vermont.
That's wonderful. And it's wonderful to see the collaboration across state lines too. I feel like often you see it within states between agencies, but it's really admirable to see the relationship between Vermont and Maryland and just helping out each other. Um, and I would like to ask you guys if there are any lessons you'd share with other states or regions considering similar efforts like this.
Yeah, I mean, I can start. I think Vermont has, as I mentioned earlier, has set forth some ambitious goals through our climate action plan to reduce fossil fuel production, reduce air pollution, and try to use what Vermonters, understand or perceive to be, cleaner forms of energy, renewables. Sometimes that's solar, wind, hydro, wood energy certainly plays a role in that. And I think as Vermont's values evolve, there's a category of Vermonters that really view wood energy as a great common sense, practical form of energy that we should be promoting. And then there's other Vermonters who think, boy, we're still combusting wood when we use wood energy. How does that square with our greenhouse gas emission reduction goals and our climate action plan? And even some subgroups within that section of the population, if you will, who think that anything that isn't solar, wind, or hydro should be phased out. Um, and so I think in that situation, other states may have, residents, stakeholders that adopt a similar, position. I think it's really important to really take the time to explain the benefits of wood heat in terms of supporting forest management, in terms of displacing fossil fuels, in terms of bringing in economic benefits and keeping money in state. When we burn oil or coal or diesel, much of that is imported to Vermont, if not all of it, and so the money associated with obtaining those commodities goes out of state, whereas wood is local. There's a benefit there, and then the overall emissions picture using advanced wood heat systems. There's some benefits to that as compared to burning fossil fuels. So I think taking the time to explain, yes, we are still combusting carbon to produce energy, but the forests grow back. At least in Vermont, we have a sort of a forest cover picture where we're confident, based on what's happened in the last 50 to 100 years in Vermont, that forests are thriving here, that our overall forest cover is constant, and so we can be relatively confident that forests grow back, that carbon that's emitted will quickly be resequestered as young forests grow. It'll be stored as our forests age, and that going in and harvesting under a sustainable forest management plan would, to, among other things, provide wood for wood energy, improves forest health, creates wildlife habitat benefits, and just taking the time to explain that whole picture. And some people will never convince them, and they'll adopt that, hey, if it's not solar, wind, or whatever, I'm not on board. But other people will understand the kind of the bigger picture and how forest management supports other things that they really care about. That wood is renewable, that it has these local benefits, and that we've seen a lot of people come around to understand and now support using wood to meet our thermal energy needs through advanced wood heat systems, and that's been I think satisfying to see that transition.
Yeah, the outreach and education is a really huge piece, and it can't be overstated how important it is to having an effort like this succeed. I think another part of it is recognizing that there are some spots where wood heat maybe isn't the right solution or the right application. Here in Vermont, we've got a lot of big, old, drafty buildings, and we don't have distributing natural gas the way that other parts of the country do. And so that we rely on propane and fuel oil for the most part for our thermal needs. And wood heat is a really, really good fit in those situations. And it's important to not try to just like make wood heat the solution for every problem that exists, because it works really well where it fits well, and it doesn't work so well where there's other things that could. So just making sure that you're really focusing on what the user needs and how it fits with what they need is going to be a big piece of it.
Yeah, that's really great insight and advice that you have for others. Because you're right, communications and outreach is, essential when it comes to projects like this. Because it's kind of that see it to be it strategy. If you don't see it, you can't know that it exists and that it's possible. So I appreciate your guys' advice. I'm sure others will take away from that as well. So then I kind of want to zoom out when it comes to everyday people, homeowners, students, or even policymakers. How do they support this kind of work? Or what would you recommend for them to support this kind of work?
Maybe starting with policymakers, because we have directed some attention to that group recently. I think recognizing that there's an energy mix that's needed to meet Vermont's overall energy needs, and kind of building on what Catherine was just saying, there are some well-suited roles for wood energy in that mix, and we should really focus on investing and supporting wood energy to fill those needs, but be selective and recognize that the other energy sources are going to do better in other areas. But where wood can play a role, um, enlisting the support of energy makers to allow wood products businesses to invest, to succeed in Vermont, or the existing ones that are already here to expand. The trend, unfortunately, has been mill and pulp factory closure in Vermont over the last 5 to 10 years, driven by different economic and market forces. So we've been thinking about what can we do to encourage the existing businesses to stick around and hopefully expand, and what can we do to attract new ones to invest in Vermont, and benefit from the great wood basket that's here, if you will. And if regulation is a barrier to achieve those goals, let's work with our policymakers and be empowered and authorized to take a look at the regulation, and where can we take steps to streamline it, to reduce any redundancies or overlaps that exist between different regulatory entities, and how can we support businesses to understand the regulatory requirements and succeed as they walk through the process of meeting those. So I think we've worked with our policymakers to help them understand our planning and wood production, forest management efforts on both federal, state, and private land, focusing on the latter two categories where we have a greater, we play a greater role in the process. And then looking at what are the barriers and challenges that the forest economy is facing, that, if we can help remove some of those barriers, the products will be more readily available. The value-added processing that's part of this overall economy might thrive a bit more. And then I think when there's innovative new ideas out there, to work with policymakers, but others too, local residents, local government, to kind of take an open look at new technology, and see if there's a way that can fit in. There's an example of an investor who wants to bring in a somewhat new technology to digest wood to produce methane, and then use the energy that wood digestion process and methane creation creates to burn and provide electricity to the grid. And then the byproduct from that would be biochar, which has some practical applications to support soil fertility, and even carbon storage, particularly in the agricultural setting, which there's plenty of in Vermont. So that's a private sector investment, but the state can play a role in trying to support that project to succeed, to help them work through the different regulatory aspects. And if there's a communication opportunity to help them tell their story, we can get involved in there as well. So that's just one example, and that project is still a work in progress. We'll see how it all plays out, but I think that's one thing we can do, working with policymakers to facilitate the forest economy and the economic actors involved in the wood energy sector to do well. I'll stop there and see if Catherine wants to come in on either that piece or the other parts of your question.
Yeah, I'll add on the other parts. So like people, homeowners, students, I think to support this kind of work, it's valuable to hear their voice just at all, like just share what wood, heat, and forest products mean to you, and what value, what role it plays in your lives. It's one thing for someone like me to come up and talk about how it's important to how Vermont operates in our economy, and it's very different when someone can speak to their own life and the role that wood and wood heat plays, and that really can translate to so many people and can impact so many people that will create this groundswell of support, and that really can mean a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great insights. I really appreciate you both sharing that, because I think, with Forest Proud, our theme is We Speak Forest. So we want to make sure everybody can know how they can be involved in forest and forest management, and educating themselves about how to learn how to speak forests. I would like to ask each of you, what does Show Us Your Forest Proud mean to you?
to me, forest proud and show us your forest proud means that I can share and be proud of what Vermont's forests contribute to the state and to the people of Vermont. We're the Green Mountain State, and we wouldn't be that without our forests. And forestry helps us stay that way, and it produces the lumber that we build our homes with, and it heats those homes in the dead of winter. And I'm really proud of all of that support and how we're able to live here. We're a rural state. We've got rural communities, and we wouldn't be able to live the way we do and enjoy our lives in all 5 seasons in Vermont without our forests and forest products.
But in a couple of different ways. I always love working with sort of non-traditional forest stakeholders or forest users to help them understand sort of that connection between things that they do or appreciate in their daily lives and thinking back to forests. And Vermont's got a lot going for it. We're lucky to be a destination for recreation year round, be it our lakes, people enjoying our lakes and streams and rivers in the summer, to people enjoying our mountains for skiing in the winter. And all of those sort of relate back to forests and the many environmental benefits that they provide. And then one thing that makes me really proud about the work we do with forest management is working with some of our more urban communities and helping students, particularly the younger students, understand those connections. And so when they look around them and see this forested landscape, they can say, that forest way up on the hill over there, helps keep, the water that I drink clean, or those trees that we planted in the community garden down the street provides sort of some cooling benefits. So on our hotter summer days, I can go there, get shade, cool off, and appreciate that so-called thermal refuge. And so helping, make those connections all over the place between what's important to you as someone living and working in Vermont, and the benefits that the forest provide is something that makes me really forest proud.
Those are fantastic responses from both you, Catherine, and you, Oliver. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to tell us why you're forest proud. And I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with me to talk more about Vermont's forests and bioenergy and follow up on this project that we did together. So I will be dropping a link in the description of this video so people can watch our short film that we did together, our short documentary, and then I'll also be directing them to your website. So yeah, thank you
Great.
guys so much for being a partner with Forest Proud, and we're really proud to support organizations such as yourself doing the good work for our forests out there.